This podcast is brought to you by Eisner Award-winning comic book store Legend Comics and Coffee in Omaha, Nebraska, and listeners like you. Head to twoheadednerd.com and click donate or check us out at Patreon.com/twoheadednerd.
Our story this week picks up where we left off last week.
Broadcasting from the ZIGGURAT at Omaha in caverns deep below the metro area, it is our pleasure to welcome you to episode 723 of the Two-Headed Nerd Comic Book Podcast. I'm your head number one, the internet's Joe Patrick.
And I'm your head number two. My name is Matt Baum. In this very, very, very special Slack Issues post-Thanksgiving spectacular, it's the grand finale of the THN's Death and Return of Superman retrospective. And once more, we're joined by the Slack Issues SuperCrew, Hugo Tverdik, Hugo's dad, John Tverdik, and Joe, Mr. Michaelunas.
After all that, Matt and I will set you up with our must-read picks for next week's comics, but for now, squeeze into your black onesies and slap on your rocket boots. It's time for Superman to finally return!
Finally.
Finally. Yeah.
Finally returned, finally.
They never young. How to say this classic story? It's like issues with Joe and Matt. Oh yeah!
If you've been paying attention, you remember the rules, and once more, we are joined by the Slack Issues SuperCrew, Hugo Tverdik, Hugo's dad, John Tverdik, and Joe, Mr. Michaelunas. How is it going, gentlemen, and are you ready for adultery, for a nude Superman, for an almost nude Superman, for Superman with a sunburn, and more importantly, the most evil robot Superman you've ever met in your life?
I thought I was ready until I was reading it, and I was just like, oh, this is... I'm not ready for this.
Yeah, I wasn't ready either.
I definitely wasn't ready for Steel's armor to grow a second face, but we'll get into that.
I have a lot of feelings on that one.
Yeah. Joe Patrick, please, you're our, I guess, the leader of this super crew. So why don't you bring us up to speed as to where we left and where we are going?
Okay. When last we met, the Supermen were reigning. 4 superheroes emerged from the chaos following Superman's death. The last son of Krypton, who looks and sounds like Superman but with deadly energy powers and without Superman's regard for human life. The Armored Steel, aka John Henry Irons, a former weapons designer seeking to atone for his past while protecting Metropolis's suicide slums. He's also the only one of the 4 that did not claim to be Superman, despite the ramblings of one insane psychic. The young clone
don't forget
Superboy.
Lois thinking he was Superman for like 30 seconds.
Well,
too.
I mean, the psychic was like, don't you get it? He's possessed by the spirit of Superman. And Lois was like, could it be? No, the answer is no. The young clone Superboy, who claims to share Superman's DNA but lacks Clark Kent's moral upbringing. All we really know for sure at this point is that his powers are weird and he's a total pervert. And the Cyborg, who has enough evidence to prove that he's the real Superman to convince the American government and many of its citizens, despite his mangled appearance. Last episode, I said the thing that any adult reader of Superman already knows, that Cyborg Superman is obviously the villain of the piece. I neglected to consider that young Hugo would not have known that. So at this point, we don't know. The story has not yet revealed that. So,
although there is funky stuff going on, you're starting to ask questions.
Well, I mean, that's gonna become increasingly clear that things aren't right with him.
And Cyborg Superman's plan, it's great. He's like, I'll just tell them what's going on and they'll buy it.
Yeah,
great.
exactly. The Supermen made their presence known in the DC universe, participating in the Bloodlines crossover, teaming up with other superheroes, and winning over the people of Metropolis. But in a misguided attempt to drum up publicity for Superboy, a mercenary hired by villainous CEO Morgan Edge goes rogue and destroys the Hobbs Neck Bridge, causing hundreds of casualties and endangering many more. If that weren't enough, an alien warship begins its final approach and Earth is in its sights. The creative teams for each of the series featured in this volume are the same as in our past installments. Roger Stern, Jackson Geiss, and Denny Rodier on Action Comics. Louise Simonson, John Bogdanov, and Dennis Janke on Superman, the Man of Steel. Carl Kessel, Tom Grummett, and Doug Hazelwood on Adventures of Superman. Dan Jurgens and Brett Breeding on Superman, all colored by the overworked Glenn Whitmore. Let's get into it. We are reading, just for context, we are reading from the current edition of the Return of Superman trade paperback. It's kind of got black and red trade dress. It's got Superman right front and center. And
the iconic black super suit on the cover.
Oh, yeah, he is in the black super suit on the cover. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Action Comics number 689 is the first chapter of this installment. Superboy and Supergirl do their best to save lives in the wake of the destruction of Hobbs Neck Bridge. Meanwhile, in the Fortress of Solitude, the regeneration matrix powering the last son of Krypton starts overloading and it hatches. There's a dude in there. Without DC even trying to keep things even a little bit mysterious, we learn that this finally is the real Superman back from the dead. They just say it.
Well, and
there's no, like, they're just like, by the way, this is Superman.
They had to at this point, right? Because fans were starting to like show up with pitchforks and stuff.
Sure, yeah. Supergirl shamelessly flirts with Superboy, who I remind you is physically and mentally a child.
Yeah, but she's using him.
Well, yeah, she's trying to use him.
Totally
so that makes it double gross.
Yeah.
And Lex Luthor learns that the kid double crossed him and signed a business deal with sleazy business manager Rex Leach. The last son meets Steel for the first time, and the pair do not hit it off. A fight ensues after last son vaporizes a thug right in front of Steel, and they pummel each other until Lois Lane breaks up the fight. For a moment. As the battle continues, we see that the alien warship is drawing closer and closer, and we get a shadowy glimpse of its captain. That is the end of chapter 1. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
I was so excited I completely forgot that Mongol was in this. And when I saw his, I was like, oh, that he's in cahoots with.
Yeah, they don't actually reveal that he's Mongol, but it's like there's no mistaking.
It's Mongol.
It's Mongol.
Yeah, you can see the outline.
He's not even completely covered in shadow. Like you can see his yellow beetle brow.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. And his outline is blue. You're like, that's Mongol. Come on.
Yeah.
But just overall, the art in this book was fantastic.
It was good.
Rock solid.
The art is very solid.
There's a panel where the Eradicator makes a face, and then on like one of Superman's video screens, and then he makes the exact same face.
A Superman and Eradicator.
Oh yes,
same face,
right?
Yeah.
And that's a visual cue that Eradicator essentially created a duplicate of Superman's body.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's oh shit. Sorry, wait, Matt Bomb. Remember, at this point, we have not learned that it's the Eradicator.
Edit that part.
So scratch all this. Scratch all the Eradicator stuff.
Okay,
so young Hugo just pointed out there's a scene where Superman is watching the video screens, catching up on what happened, and they show last son, aka Ray-Ban, or as I will call him mostly through this episode, Shades. They show his face, and then they cut to Superman's face, and they're identical, which is just a visual cue. That's the last son is basically a duplicate.
We're going to learn a lot more about that.
Like, we will learn more as we go.
Yeah. So I didn't know, you guys brought up how like Mongol, you forgot Mongol's in this. I did not know Mongol was in this, period. Mm-hmm. And without spoiling anything, like I know that there's a big event and I know who's guilty of it. And I know, but I didn't like when it happens shortly here, I was just like scratching my head. Like, have I been wrong about this for years? It's wild.
So
we're about to get there though.
Mongol is not really like in these days. Mongol is a pretty well-known DC villain,
right?
He shows all the time.
He wasn't then. Yeah.
This is a new
back in 1992. It's not that he was new. It's just that they didn't like he wasn't around constantly.
Okay. All right.
He's made some appearances. He's the villain of the very famous.
Well, let's save Mongol talk for when we get full on Mongol. So
like Mongol's been around, but he's not like the constant presence in the background of DC that he is today.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm glad you pointed out too. The Supergirl, Superboy getting chummy on the bridge stuff was so weird and
yucky.
The way he drew it, it was so thirsty and just.
But she's great. She's
That's-
like, he's like, I need Superboy to do that. She's like, no problem. Watch this. Hey, Superboy, I'll give you a kiss. Have you noticed my demeanor has completely changed since the last time? And he's like,
but
what?
we have been
Boobs?
commenting on the way Butch Geist kind of sexualizes Supergirl
big
throughout
time.
this entire process.
Big
Like
time.
every time
Yeah.
he draws her, it's like very posed,
Oh yeah.
skirt billowing, very leggy.
Oh
you know?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he leans right into it.
This issue also suffered from just Roger Stern just not. He needs an editor. Like there's too many words, too many thought bubbles.
There's too many
much
words for this
exposition.
whole
Lot-
damn thing. Oh my god.
They got a lot of
Every-
information to convey for sure.
Lois's inner monologue is a novel in its own.
Lois.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about my feelings, how Lois is betrayed in a little bit here, but
Hey,
God.
let's move on
But
to
even Lex though, to the Supergirl point, like eventually kind of has that, almost seems like he's kind of creeped out by their relationship too, like saying he's no older than an infant at this point.
Yeah.
well, right, because like how old is he? Like literally, how old is?
Didn't we
it?
decide
Like,
he's 15 basically?
well, genetically,
Physically,
yes,
he's
but
physically.
like when was he grown? Right, he didn't actually age 15 years. They grew him in a tube.
Right. Well, but I mean,
So, like,
they programmed
how
him
old
with
is
the
he
mind of a
literally?
Ninja Turtle, though. So, because he came out like radical, and
Yeah, right. But like, is he what? How old is he? A month old? A year old? You know?
Look.
I don't know.
Right.
It would have to be less than a month
There you go.
because he was created after Superman dies, and later they say something about it's been a month, and it's at the end of the book.
But weren't the
There you
newsboys
have
juicing him up with information and stuff? Right.
Nice.
He's less than a month.
Before he escaped, the newsboys helped him out, and like,
They helped him escape.
yeah, okay, all right.
All right. Let's move on. Superman, the Man of Steel, number 24 is chapter 2 of this battle. The fight between Steel and Ray-Bans carried them all the way to California. It's comic book science. They flew way up in the air and they came down on a different
The
trajectory.
Earth
and suddenly
moved. Yeah, the Earth moved. They came down.
None of us are aeronautic engineers, so
No.
don't ask us. Steel doesn't really stand a chance, but his tenacity shows Ray-Bans that maybe there's more to being Superman than just power. Hearing a distress call over the radio, Shades heads to Coast City. Not great. Don't, but we'll get there. We're back to White Rabbit and the Toastmasters now. And Lex wants an audience with the gunrunner. This is maybe like the thirstiest issue in the entire trade.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure.
He also offers to let Steel hitch a ride home on one of his jets, planning an ambush to get Steel out of his way. Lois is having another vulnerable moment, which means it's time for everyone's favorite Union Buster, Jeb, to show up. Lex and White Rabbit try to out-seduce one another while wearing the most ridiculous Harlequin romance outfits. She's going to try and kill Steel. Lex hopes they kill each other. Ambush at the airport as Rabbit's goons try and fail to kill Steel. If you want to get into what's going on with that bouncing boy kind of dude, we can, but we don't have to talk about it.
Man.
And end up paying the ultimate price. The foundry explodes. Most of them die. White Rabbit gets crushed. But Lex doesn't mind because now he has the secret of the Toastmaster's design and John Henry's secret identity.
So John
And
Henry created
The
the guns?
alien warship has finally arrived.
So John Henry created these guns.
He helped develop the guns with White Rabbit.
Okay.
and then she took him into the street and,
Gotcha.
And she's like, yeah,
Gotcha.
she is unscrupulous and
Right.
she wants to profit, and he is feeling very guilty, Tony Stark style, and wants to
Because-
eradicate them.
So
Yeah.
we have not established White Rabbit's race yet, and Bogdanov is not doing us any favors like trying to spell it out.
I mean,
not
I don't
that
think
it's
it's really
important, but
relevant,
it's
but-
interesting. You got to say she's a wild-looking woman. You know? Now
She's a wild-looking woman, that's true.
she shows up with this genetic monster kid out of
He
nowhere.
looks like a little kid, a pudgy little kid with glasses,
But he's
and
giant.
he turns into a gigantic, raging blob monster.
Now he has not been around. This is not something I missed, right?
I've
He's-
never
he's
seen that
been
character
in-
before nor since.
Yeah, just in this series.
Okay, but like
Yeah,
it was not
Yes,
established if
perfect.
she had super people working for her when we previously met her. Yes or no?
Well, I don't think we saw him do his thing until just now. Yeah.
Was he even
Yeah.
in the books?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
On the sidelines, whenever there was like White Rabbit's having a meeting with their goons. Like he
Okay,
was there.
we just didn't see him do this stuff.
right.
But to Matt's point, all of her combat has been like gun related.
Yeah.
They have not been super people.
It's just
Like,
been guys with
they
shooting.
may
each
have
other.
been in the background, but they haven't used powers up to this point.
And this dude
Correct,
drinks a bunch
yeah.
of toxic waste and gets really big. Like that's his power.
and then he explodes,
and then
presumably.
he pops. Which is
This
fine.
is a
'cause
wild book.
I don't want any more of
Some
this.
wild moments.
I'm done.
He never appears again, so we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I'm done with the White Rabbit. I'm done with the Toastmaster. At this point, I was just like, oh no, I thought we finished this thing for
This
Steel to
issue
do.
is basically all about wrapping up that Toastmaster storyline as quickly as humanly possible.
Yeah, we're done with
absolutely.
Steel's side story, and we need to get him
And from
back
here
in the
on
main
out,
story.
it's all a plot all the time.
yeah.
Yeah, and so much so that like I was surprised that the issue started right where the previous Action Comics ended, like the continuity. They don't always do that across.
Yeah, no.
From this one,
Yeah.
from one right to the other. And I was like, oh wow.
What also
It-
makes
it-
very
it-
little sense if we're going with the rest, if we're trying to finish this Toastmaster story, because they're like, big fight. I'm going to punch the Eradicator's glasses off. And he's like, it's too bright in here. I got to leave. And then he's like, all right, glad that's done. Now I'm going to go finish up my stupid side story that nobody cares about. You know?
Yeah,
God,
It's true.
It happened so fast.
Yeah.
I think
All
when we read the first time we read this too during Death. I think we are all like, oh, Jeb is weird and he never comes back. But now I forgot he's here.
He is an almost
Jeb's got
constant
story.
presence
Yeah.
in this trade paperback.
Oh, yeah.
He's
Jeb's around.
like,
Oh,
this
yeah.
is Jeb's time to shine, unfortunately. All right. Superman number 80. The cover reveals what we all knew from the start. Cyborg Superman is a villain. Okay, well, most of us knew. Again, apologies to Hugo. Shades is still in Coast City helping clean up from an earlier emergency when the warship descends upon Earth. Those suckers at the White House call the cyborg to investigate the alien craft. Instead, he finally shows his true colors and attacks Shades as thousands of quote-unquote carnage globes rain down upon the city. In an instant, Coast City is obliterated, and the last son of Krypton's corporeal form is more or less destroyed. The ship rains down a second volley of globes, which are seeds that begin to grow into a monstrous mechanical construct. Shades manages to escape in his energy form and makes it to the fortress. The cyborg takes advantage of the ash and debris lingering from the explosion to obscure his sinister construction. Satellites can't see past it because, there was basically a nuclear explosion. As he lies to the White House about what transpired, the warship docks, revealing that its captain and the cyborg's henchman is none other than Mongol. We all knew that already. Meanwhile, at the Fortress of Solitude, someone or something has taken refuge inside an ancient Kryptonian battlesuit. The issue kind of makes it look like it's Shades, but, there was somebody else hanging out in the fortress at the time, so we don't know.
Yeah.
At this point, we don't know.
The issue wanted it to be a mystery. I don't think it was a mystery at all.
Sure. Yeah.
Like a lot of things, the issue wants certain things to happen, so it just has to happen. Like when the White House is like, what's going on over there? And Cyborg Superman's like, oh, don't worry. It's that other one, the other Superman that looks more like a human being, and we all thought was Superman. No, he's the bad guy. I'm taking care of it. Don't worry. There's so much smoke you can't see anything that's happening.
No,
And they're just
everybody
like,
thinks the cyborg is the real Superman.
thank you,
Because
Cyborg
he's got
Superman.
the DNA.
No, that's what I'm saying. Well, okay, fair enough. He has the DNA. That's right. Forgot about that. So
Yeah.
this was the thing I was talking about. The destruction of Coast City is amazing. Amazing. I love it.
It's a really great sequence. It's
Yeah.
very compelling and very exciting.
Absolutely awesome. But then I'm like, well, wait a minute. I always thought Cyborg Superman was the guy that blew up, Central City or Coast City? Central City.
Coast City.
Coast City.
Coast City.
I always thought it was Cyborg Superman, and it turns out, no, it was Mongol all this time. And
It was Cyborg Superman on Mongol's orders. It's
Right.
Cyborg Superman's plan
Yeah, he's
and
the
his
mastermind.
Deadly Alliance.
I
as the
had
book
not
is
picked
titled.
up on that because I hadn't read it yet.
Yeah.
And in this issue, it's still not completely clear. Like we know Cyborg
I mean,
Superman's
the
a bad
issue
guy.
ends with Mongol kneeling and kissing Cyborg Superman's hand.
Until you
so
get
I
to
think it's
that
pretty clear.
page. And then I go, okay. So like it was pretty clever, actually, the way that they executed it.
I think this issue is fantastic.
I thought it was great.
It is a great issue. The art is killer. Like Jurgens and Breeding are just outstanding in this issue. The cover is awesome.
The cover is fantastic. All the sequences.
Explosion with like it coming out from the sky and coming down from
So
the floors.
cool.
Yeah, it's
that
amazing.
explosion is amazing.
All the scenes of Ray-Ban Superman getting just rocked by Cyborg, it just gets obliterated.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust when the cannon's just right in his back.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
And
brutal.
they really establish how badass like Henshaw is here.
Yeah.
He's like far and away the baddest of the bad. And he was the only character I was really interested in last time. And now I think they figured it out and they went, okay, this is where the story's going to go because everybody likes Cyborg Superman and the rest of these guys are total losers. So
I forgot that we had to skip past the Bloodlines annual to get here.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Oof.
But Matt, like I had a kind of similar reaction just with like Mongol and the way it unfolded is like, I was like, man, I remember Mongol being bad, but not like genocide of, several million people at once bad. Like I was really like blown away that he was involved. I just,
no, he's definitely like that. He's definitely like that now.
He was in charge of Warworld. So he flew around extinguishing populations, right?
I mean, he's essentially Space Hitler minus the racism.
Right.
He just wants the power. He doesn't care about who you are.
I guess I more mean like I'm more taken aback that he was successful because so many times in stories, like you know what I mean, it just doesn't happen. And I was like, nope, he like did it and it worked, and it's pretty wild. Wild issue. I
don't know enough about Mongol, and I'll have some questions later when we kind of see him getting kicked around a bit, but we're not quite there yet, so we'll wait for that.
I tell you, the panel that stuck with me most in this issue is the close-up shot of Cyborg Superman's arm cannon blasting Ray-Ban's point blank in the face, and you see the energy like spilling out the other side. I'm like, Jesus, that is intense.
Good.
And and it was only at this point that I finally understood what happened with this Ray-Ban Superman in the beginning when the energy creature like was flying around, and I was like, who is that? What is that? Like I didn't get it. And now I went, okay, now I kind of understand. It still doesn't make a lot of sense because he's not a robot. He's more like, I don't know, an energy genie. I don't know what to call him.
I mean, we'll get to that.
Okay.
We will learn Ray-Ban's origin in due time.
I don't know if we learn it, but there is one. I'll say that.
No, we learn it.
Like I read it and I didn't feel like I didn't learn anything.
Okay, well, I'll explain it to you in a way that you can understand because I know that you're slow on the uptake. Alrighty. Adventures of Superman 503. This one, again, another banger art-wise. Grummett and Hazelwood. Holy smokes.
Grummett's great here. Yeah.
The Cyborg surveys his handiwork while reporting back to the White House. After slaughtering a handful of survivors, he manipulates the White House into sending Superboy to assist instead of the Justice League. We'll get back to the Justice League later.
Oh, boy.
Somehow, enough time has passed that there's already a video game about Superman's death. Like, this is the quickest game development of all time.
Well, it seems like it's just Superman punching, Doomsday. And
it's like a Street Fighter 2 kind of.
So, it's just two characters they put in there. And there you go. You want it? People are like, yeah.
And one of them is unable to win.
Yeah.
They slapped some new art assets onto an existing game. After some shameless innuendo between Superboy and Roxy Leach, the kid learns about Coast City and heads out to help. The Kryptonian battlesuit breaks free of the fortress and begins its long, shambling walk to Metropolis. While playing for the news media, the Cyborg says something about Superboy that catches Lois's attention. He wishes that he had as much confidence in his abilities when he was Superboy's age. But as Lois and the readers know, Clark Kent didn't develop most of his abilities until he was older. That, my friends, is a clue. Well, I guess we already know it's evil.
Yeah, we already know.
It's a clue for everybody else. During the flight to Ground Zero, the Cyborg destroys a chopper full of reporters and ambushes Superboy, all while blaming poor Shades.
Great explosion, by the way. Excellent explosion page. Ooh.
During the fight, we learn that Mongol isn't happy being under the Cyborg's thumb. as Superboy sees the construct standing where Coast City used to be, the cyborg brings the fight to a brutal end. And it is a brutal end.
Oh, yeah.
That last shot.
You're not
where
going to
you
live to
hit
see
them-
it smash, and then it's at the end.
Yeah, it's so good. This issue was fantastic. The cover is awesome. I remember buying when it came out and just being like completely taken by the cover. The only thing I hate about this issue, and it was on the last one too, is like the things are booming in Coast City. Like, little like, hey, I know you're trying to like hype this up, but like there's millions of people who got toasted.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe have a little bit more reference for that. But,
Yeah, because I mean, like, look, something really big and bad. A city was just erased, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's just kind of like, hey, what happened? Like no one's freaking out.
It's even worse because the issue where Coast City is destroyed, it says on the cover, things are booming in Coast City.
Yeah.
And on Adventures of Superman, this one, it says things were booming in Coast City.
Yeah.
And
It's so
were is
wrong.
underlined. It's like, okay.
But like the media and everybody kind of deals with it like it was a really weird call in a very important football game, or like we're still trying to figure out what happened there. That was wild,
people are at it. That's probably my only real big beef with not just this issue, but this run is how Coast City, like, no one cares. Like, it's not a big deal. Well,
No,
some people do.
not
but
at all. I mean, well,
not as big of a deal as it should be.
It not
You
until
know?
Like
Green
Lois's
Lantern shows
inconvenience
up.
that the airport is closed.
Yeah, that is nice. That is nice.
Airport, I've got to
It's
get
like,
there, but
no.
there's-
But literally, it's like not until Green Lantern shows up. It's someone like, what the hell? Like, everybody else is just like, oh man, did you kill that the one wearing the sunglasses yet, Cyborg? And he's like, not yet. Don't come in.
All right. Moving on.
Oh wait, real
Sorry,
quick, one
I have
question.
one line I want to call out. That I love when he's Superboy messes up Cyborg Superman's arm, and he's like, "My arm, how'd you?" And the Superboy says, "That's my secret." Then he thinks, "I have no idea."
Yeah, that's
That's
pretty
my
good.
question. What is he doing there? What is this power where he knocks?
We'll
technology
find out.
Power? Okay,
We will find out.
So we legit don't know yet.
Nobody knows right now. Superboy doesn't know. Superboy all Superboy knows is that his powers are different than Superman's, and he's got this weird ability that he can't control.
Gotcha.
And he doesn't know he doesn't understand it.
And it'll come and play
We
with
will learn what that is.
comes and play with missiles later.
the epilogue. Yeah.
This one does have my favorite Cyborg Superman moments, like of all, when he finds those survivors and the guy's like, "Was it the Russians?"
Oh man, that was
and then
great.
he goes,
The
"No,
Ruskies,
it's a
the
rogue-
Ruskies
it was a-
finally
yeah,
push press the button.
yeah." And he's like, "No, it's a rogue Superman. He's right behind you guys." They all turn around and he just blows him up.
It's cool.
I told you,
really.
I was right
It's
behind you.
Either like the skeletons, all the flesh just flies
Yeah,
off
man.
them. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
He's
Vapor.
crazy
very
evil.
Terminator 2-esque.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
He's so evil. I love it. And literally his plan is just like, everybody will believe me because like I can make convincing AI videos, basically.
Yeah. I mean, he's the only one on scene.
Yeah,
No one else can see in.
I guess. And why
he can create convincing fakes, and the White House
AI
believes him
fake.
to be real.
and like the Central City blew up, and again the Justice League is just like, man,
It's Coast City.
Pardon me.
The
Coast City blew
Central
up.
City is where the Flash.
Flash.
That's right. Coast City blows up, and the Justice League is like, oh, well, let's not go there yet. We don't want to get in Cyborg Superman's way. You guys want to watch some more TV and wait for him to tell us what's happening?
Well,
Joe mentions T2, and we'd skip Bloodlines, but like there's a Terminator 2 Easter egg in it. Like, his reflection, or is it? I can't remember who's walking down the street, and they look into like a video store or whatever, and there's like a T2 drawing in the store, like in the glass.
Yeah, it's a loose cannon, and when he's like, he doesn't have any clothes on yet, and he looks and he sees that, and then he comes out of this like store wearing a leather jacket and jeans.
right. Yeah.
Good Lord.
Give me your clothes and your motorcycle.
When he kills the people, he says, "I just killed some wounded animals and put them out of their misery."
Yeah.
Brutal.
He's bad.
Pretty vicious.
He's bad
Pretty
news.
vicious.
Dude.
Love him.
He's
Matt,
brutal.
you said that you had something or no? Or
No.
did we cover it?
No, we covered
Okay.
it.
All right. Action Comics 690. The cult that worships Superman has split between those that follow the cyborg and those that follow Shades. Luckily, the Special Crimes Unit is there to bust heads when the schism turns violent. We never see them again, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I totally buy that there like cults would pop up and stuff, but these cultists are idiots. Like,
well, the Superman
dumbest.
Cult, the Superman cult already exists. It's been around since the 80s.
Oh,
but this was like imagine two Jesuses show up.
Yeah.
And one looks like half of a robot and one wears sunglasses.
Right.
So half of the congregation is like, don't follow the shade. Don't follow Ray-Bans. He's bad. And the other half is the opposite. And one of them paints their faces to look like the cyborg Superman. It's adorable.
Oh, good Lord.
Superboy meets Mongol, and we learn that the villains are building a giant engine city. We're not sure why yet, but it can't be good. The cyborg is cocky as hell and cackles like a madman when Mongol tries to warn him about Earth's other heroes. Back at the fortress, Shades lives, sort of. His physical body is failing and his power source is gone, but we know now that his power source was the revived Superman, who is currently on the ocean floor riding the giant warsuit to Metropolis. Lois tells Maggie Sawyer about the cyborg lying about his youth a couple of chapters ago, and we learn that the stone slab that held Superman's coffin is missing some of its mass. What is that about? Don't worry, we'll figure that out very quickly.
That's where my genie questions come in.
We're going to figure it out very quickly.
Okay.
The cyborg uses digital trickery to convince the Justice League that Shades was responsible for Coast City's destruction and that he fled the planet. And so he sends them on a wild goose chase after him. They leave the Earth. An increasingly dissatisfied Mongol secretly reveals the villain's master plan to Superboy. He wants to build a second engine city in Metropolis. And now, here we go. It's finally Secret Origin time. As the Last Son's condition continues to decline, the fortress robots remind him where he came from. He is the Eradicator, an ancient relic that gained sentience and dedicated its existence to the protection of Krypton's legacy at all costs. Gaining humanoid form, it was defeated by Superman after a failed attempt to remake Earth in Krypton's image. That happened many, many issues before this storyline.
Okay.
But a failsafe within the robot's programming preserved its life, collecting its energies and restoring its mind. After failing to possess Kal-El's deceased body, so this was in Adventures of Superman 500.
Right. I remember this.
The energy form goes into the the tomb, opens the coffin,
and
tries to touch the body, and it's
me.
like, ah!
Yeah.
But in that moment, we don't know what happens. We only know that he was energy, and then all of a sudden he's a dude. Well, what happened was the Eradicator stole mass from within the tomb to create a body of its own. So it just like swiped some molecules, made itself a body.
So he's so powerful.
Mystery solved, Lois.
He's so powerful that he can change stone into super
flesh and blood,
tough skin. Like, is he a robot? That's what I don't understand. What is
the Eradicator? Is not a robot. It is a device. It is a relic. It's an AI, if you will, but it was the receptacle of all Kryptonian history and knowledge. Okay. And it was corrupted, and it was used as this weapon.
No, I mean, I guess I understand all of that. I just mean, like, is it a thing? Is it like a tube?
The Eradicator has physical form. It's a smallish device.
Okay.
It kind of looks like the rocket that carried Superman to Earth.
Okay, that's what I was going for.
It looks very similar to like Kryptonian technology that is shown in other issues throughout this era.
Gotcha. All right.
But yeah, the Eradicator was a device, but it gained sentience and got itself a body. And so it is no longer like constrained to this device.
That's what I was trying to pick up on, because I was like, I wasn't clear if it was like an energy creature that wears like a skin suit.
Yes,
it wasn't real clear.
It gained humanoid form.
Okay.
It was kind of an energy being, and
but when it did,
it
had to wear sunglasses because it was too bright.
It was too bright.
It was too bright.
Yeah, it stole some mass from the tomb, which is why the slab is smaller than it used to be.
Sure.
And it formed itself a body. The Eradicator is vastly powerful, or at least it was in its original form. I think he unintentionally maybe downgraded himself by putting himself in a more or less cloned body of Superman.
Because Steel shouldn't be able to smack this guy around, right? He's that powerful.
Well, Steel doesn't really they kind of touch on that in that issue. Like Steel's trying very hard, but through it all, the Eradicator is like, this guy won't give up. He's such an honorable man. Maybe there's more to life than just having power and punishing the guilt.
All right.
So it's basically he's letting Steel wail on him when really he could wave his hand and Steel would be disintegrated at any time.
He was having trouble with his feelings at the time. I get it.
Yeah, he was feeling his feelings.
He was punching him, but he wanted to kiss him. I get it.
Sure.
We've all been there.
Back to the origin. After placing Superman's body in the regeneration matrix, the Eradicator drew upon its stored energy to become our boy, Shades. And now it stands revealed the origin of Ray-Ban Superman. He is secretly the Eradicator, who was a pre-existing character, I guess, if you will. A former nemesis of Superman. The Kryptonian war suit holding Superman continues its trek to Metropolis, and shit is about to get real. However, we do learn that he's basically just sitting in a metal cocoon.
Yeah.
He can't see or hear anything that's going on, and he's just trusting that the guidance system is working.
He seems like he's mad about it because it looks like his hands are crossed. I mean, he's wearing all black. Can't really tell, but it
he's
looks
kind of harnessed
in there, and he's like, "Damn it!" It's like I can't see anything.
So, a big info dump in this issue. We learn about the Eradicator. Any thoughts, guys?
A lot.
How do you feel about the Eradicator? I think the Eradicator is kind of dumb.
Really? I kind of like the Eradicator, honestly. I like, I don't know. I like the concept. I think there's some things that could have been executed a bit better, but I don't know. I think that the concept is interesting and the
concept's great. That's not the problem. Do you guys know enough about this story to know, was this the plan all along, or did they change gears?
No, this is the plan.
Okay. Because some of this stuff, I'm sorry, but the Eradicator business, the way they're explaining this, wow.
No, not that much. Not that much time has passed. Between Adventures of Superman 500 and this issue, not that much time in the real world has passed. Fair. So, this was this was definitely part of the plan. And I'll go one farther. We are going to talk about the Cyborg Superman's origin later on.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that calls back to an even older Superman story. And so, I feel like they've been planning this. They had been planning this for a couple of years.
I guess I just mean making the Eradicator have all the abilities to do all this stuff and tying it so much to how Superman actually returns. It seems like they kind of forced this one pretty hard. Right.
I see. I disagree.
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
I really don't. I was laughing out loud while I read it. I was just like, what? This is what we're doing.
If they hadn't done that, the clones would seem sort of peripheral characters, to the return of Superman. They have to be somehow tied to it.
No, and I get that.
Right.
And again, I don't know enough about the Eradicator to be I don't know, maybe he does stuff like this all the time, but it sure seems he can do whatever he wants, basically.
If you remember, the Eradicator wasn't trying to bring Superman back to life. I don't think.
Right.
And I think that they kind of touch on that a little bit.
It was an accident. It seems like it was an accident.
He put Superman's body in that egg
because he couldn't absorb the
regeneration
light.
Matrix so that he could tap it like a battery.
Right. Because he couldn't absorb sunlight.
And so, it unintentionally restored Kal-El to life.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And we'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
that works for me.
It does work for me. And now I will also say that I think if you recall that when we first see the Eradicator in Adventures of Superman 500 and he wakes up in the fortress as an energy being and the robots are like, Master, you're back. And he's like, I don't remember shit. What happened? And I think the Eradicator previously was a very powerful artifact and being. It was terraforming Earth to make it look more like Krypton. It was doing things on a massive scale that as the last son of Krypton, it wasn't able to do. So I think that maybe in his fog, he stepped in to try to replace Superman or thought he was Superman.
Right.
And ended up limiting his own power.
And the robots or know he is who he is. They're calling him Master.
The robots know the entire time.
Because he's the Eradicator, and they're like, oh, it's our Master, the Eradicator.
The Eradicator.
Yeah, because he's the last. He's like the last living Kryptonian being.
Okay, when you explain it like that, it's making a lot more sense. Because at first they were like, no, the robots lied to you. Like, why are the robots lying?
No. Yeah, no. So in post-crisis continuity, the Fortress of Solitude was created by the Eradicator.
Okay.
The Eradicator is the whole reason why Superman has a place to go chill that's full of Kryptonian shit.
I did not know
where would he have gotten it otherwise, right?
I did not know this. And that's why I'm saying it seemed like a lot of this just felt like their creators going, well, time for a logical leap because we don't have a lot of pages to do this.
This all builds on existing lore.
Okay.
That I will grant you doesn't really get addressed in that much detail.
No,
it's pretty inside baseball.
I didn't get it. Like, I was like, this is Superman's place. Why are the robots lying to him? Why can he do this? How is he absorbing his power other than looking at him or touching it or something?
He's like basking in the glow of it. And it's making him
but
strong.
He can't absorb light.
I loved in this issue that Guy Gardner finally, like, there's somebody who's starting to, like, on the Justice League side, like, get pissed and like want to do something.
But the only reason Gardner's pissed is because he loves the Eradicator. He's like, I don't buy this. He's not like, I don't buy this. Like, hey guys, does it seem weird that one person is telling us this has happened and a city's been leveled and it's nothing like that. This Justice League, the worst. They are morons.
Well, also consider that this
Justice
League is also this Justice League is still also operating under the direction of the UN or whatever.
Right.
Like, this is Justice League America.
So when Cyborg Superman's like, go to space. Yeah. He's in space. They're like, we're going.
And then the White House says, go to space. Yeah. And so they do. Yeah.
My biggest issue with like this Justice League is the full panel where they're all sitting at the table. And again, it comes back to a entire city has been leveled.
Yes.
And they're sitting. They're sitting.
They're watching TV.
they're like waiting for orders.
It's very low energy. And like
so low energy.
I totally kind of understand. Like, Matt has often complained to me in the past about comics that take place in a shared universe not acknowledging things that are happening in other comics.
Right.
Like his big example is Thor parked Asgard above New York City for a minute. And then there's an issue of Spider-Man, and it's like Spider-Man doesn't say anything about Asgard.
Right. Daredevil didn't mention it, like
right. And I'm like, Matt, look, yes, it's a shared universe, but you also have to allow that these books stand on their own, or in part they stand on their own, and they had to give some reason for why all of the heroes on Earth didn't immediately rush to Coast City.
The reason was bad.
And the reason is,
the reason is bad. It's really bad, and it makes this Justice League look like morons.
Yeah, I mean, well, this Justice League includes Maxima and Bloodwind. So what are you going to do?
And is that the Ray in the background too?
It is the Ray.
Right.
So in the team that reformed after Death of Superman, the Ray is there. Maxima, Agent Liberty, who sucks. Black Condor, like, these are new members that stepped in after Superman died.
Team, wow.
And then they also grabbed Jade and Alan Scott to help fuel Maxima's spaceship so that they could go into space. And so, like,
not find anything.
This team of powerful heroes runs off thinking they're going to find the villain. Of course, we all know that it's just to get them out of the way so that we can focus on this other stuff. All right. Superman, the Man of Steel, number 25. I believe this has got a quote on the cover that says "The Real Steel Deal?" ? Am I right about that, John?
The Real Steel Deal.
You are correct.
Yep.
The Real Steel Deal ? We all know that it's true. All right. Deep in the bowels of Engine City, a captive Superboy doubts his genetic heritage. If he's really a clone of Superman, why can't he get free? Why do things keep exploding when he touches them? Lex's scientists have discovered something trekking towards Metropolis under the waves, but they have no idea that it's a giant Kryptonian warsuit holding Superman. Everyone still thinks that the Eradicator, aka the last son of Krypton, aka Shades, is responsible for the destruction of Coast City, and only Steel is left to protect Metropolis, but even he wants to leave. In a moment of panic, Superboy's strange powers kick in and he makes his escape. While Jeb tries to woo Lois with sports talk, her mind is elsewhere. Just then, Cyborg Superman takes over the airwaves to announce that Superboy is in cahoots with Shades. Luckily, Jeff and Lois are at a Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever, so she's there to hear the cyborg tell another lie about having powers as a kid.
Can you imagine watching this play out on TV in real time? Like, wait a minute, you guys were just best friends. What happened?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. He's bad now.
In a moment of vulnerability, Jeb smooches Lois and she smooches him back. But this is enough to get her to put on her best reporting jodhpurs and demand that Perry White send her to Coast City, which is, of course, suicidally ridiculous. A submarine full of LexCorp scientists has discovered the Kryptonian war suit, but they have no idea what it is or if it's friendly. Naturally, Lex tells them to drop a depth charge in its path, causing an underwater avalanche and the deaths of everyone on board. Lois and Steele meet at the airport, both hoping to hitch a ride to Coast City, and Lois shares her suspicions about the cyborg. Moments later, Supergirl and Lex arrive just in time to greet the Kryptonian warsuit as it makes landfall. Very conveniently, this airport is also located right next to the harbor, which is where the warsuit is coming in.
Of course.
They're all in the right place. Superboy makes it back to Metropolis just in time, and he joins the fight against the automated warsuit. He also fills everyone in about the cyborg Superman's lies and his deadly plans for Earth. Steel manages to knock the warsuit to the ground, and it opens up its metal cloaca and pisses out Superman and his glorious super mullet.
That is how you get out of these, apparently.
That thing is between the robot's legs. It is a cloaca.
He crawls out of the pee hole, basically.
Yeah. And Superman, when last we saw him before he got in the warsuit, had normal length hair.
Yes.
And now he's got a super mullet.
It grew. Yes, I assume that
Exactly.
happened.
It grew in the neck, and then on the cover of the next issue, it's short. It's driving me nuts.
So you know, if one thing changed during the production of the Death and Return of Superman, I will say that somebody had the bright idea,
the mullet,
to give him a mullet. It's cool.
Oh yeah,
and then they added it.
Well, and later on, when he's in all black and guns, it'll pay off. Don't worry, you know.
Right, but they added it after the cover of Superman 81 had already been drawn.
Good God!
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like, ugh, God Almighty,
so dumb.
Yeah.
Again, a city has been erased. A city has literally been erased, and Jeb is talking about sports with Lois Lane.
Now, I will give one thing to Jeb in this one. She's clearly distracted, thinking about like how the cyborg's lying about his youth and all that, and how she's going to get to Coast City. And so he makes some weird comment to get her angry on purpose, and she just like doesn't acknowledge it. So he's trying to get under her skin. It's still dumb, and she still kisses him, which is equally dumb.
God.
But,
I will say though, I'm glad that Lois actually calls it Coast City, because I'm really tired of them already calling it Engine City. And to get back to these poor people who have been just destroyed, like we're just moving by them, or like, no, it's a new place. It's called Engine City now. It's like, no, it's not. That's
right.
Yeah, it's like if Philadelphia blew up and we were like, well, it used to be Philadelphia, but now it's Crater City because it's a crater now. You know, like no one would do that. You know,
that's so wrong. I love Jimmy in the Spin Doctor shirt. That's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
There are several Spin Doctors references again in this trade paperback. So the DC editorial team is convinced that that's what the teens love.
Well,
Superboy's got a Spin Doctor's poster on the wall of his apartment.
Huge, right?
What's that?
Pocket Full of Kryptonite. That was one of their hits. I mean,
probably burning up the charts.
Yeah.
I don't know when that song came out, but it had to be around this time.
It's got to be. It's got to be.
Good point. Yeah.
I didn't really think Bogdanov. I didn't love the art in this issue.
It's terrible.
I think that Bogdanov used up a lot of his energy on that last Steel Eradicator fight, because that fight is kick ass.
That did look really good. And I wasn't going to do it because I've been beating up Bogdanov a lot. But I have
I'm just telling you, this issue, it seems pretty...
That scene where Superboy bursts out of the whatever he was in.
It's the cloaca.
Oh my! No. It's Superboy who is all like,
when he busts out of the like,
busts out. It's just like it looks like he barely drew anything. He drew like
his Superboy is even off for him. And the cover looks like an idea that like they just took to production.
Yes.
Like the cover doesn't even have anything to it.
No.
You know.
So I wonder maybe if they were kind of scrambling against deadlines at this point. But they're trying to keep the train running on time, and things happen.
That was one of the reasons
I do want to give them credit. Like, there are no fill-ins in this at all, ever.
No.
Yeah, they're
it's
all
the same
hard.
creators for all of the books the entire way through.
These guys are working. And one of the reasons I'd asked about like other things, like, was this always the plan? Because it feels like they are padding some of this out with
definitely
just pure nonsense, basically.
They're definitely padding it out because some of these issues are interminably long with very little going on. I do want to call out Matt's favorite practice. There's a panel that goes across the entire page at the bottom. It's the page before Superman emerges from the cloaca. Oh, pardon me. I'm wrong. It's in the middle of the page.
Okay.
And John Bogdanoff signs his name to it.
Yep.
And it's not a good panel.
No.
It's not an impressive piece of artwork.
No, it is not.
But he's like, this is the one I'm proud of. This one, Bogdanoff.
Like,
and he writes his name on it.
Yeah. That's like right before Steel spends 6 panels getting ready to hit the War Machine with his hammer, and then finally does hit with his hammer. And in the panel where he does, his hammer appears to be 25 feet long.
It does grow to unusual size.
Also, am I crazy, or does Steel now have like whitey tidies? His trunks, they weren't white before. They were like
in that panel. He definitely does.
I think
they look white, but I think it might just be like a lighting or coloring issue because there's another panel here where they are blue that match the rest of the armor.
I mean, they barely drew this, so they probably barely colored it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think it's just a coloring issue.
To use another Matt Baum, Supergirl's bad at her job. She picks up the mech and chucks it at a helicopter.
Yeah.
Containing her boyfriend.
Yeah, with her boyfriend on board. And right after she does it, she's like, oh, shit.
Now, regarding Steel's hammer, I think like it will become more obvious when he gets his own series, but Steel's hammer is more than just like, I went to Ace Hardware and bought a sledgehammer.
Oh, no, it does
It's
stuff.
an actual mechanism that he created. So it might telescope out into a longer size, but
maybe that's silly and stupid.
It's very long in that panel. You're not wrong. All right. Let us move on to Superman number 81. We are in the home stretch, fellas.
Oh, boy.
Superman is understandably met with some doubts by the assembled heroes and Lex after Steel gives him a painful...
Not enough doubts. At this point, you've had 4 people show up that aren't Superman. This one shows up and they're like, maybe he is. I don't know.
After Steel gives him a painful squeeze on the shoulder, we learn that Superman is still recovering from his battle with Doomsday and is not up to full power yet. Meanwhile, in Engine City, the former Coast City, there were people living there. We learn that Mongol and the Cyborg's master plan is to turn Earth into a new war world.
Oh, boy.
Planet-sized weapon of intergalactic destruction. It's Secret Origin time. Once again, buckle up. This one's even better than the Eradicator one. Here we hear the tale of Hank Henshaw. Henshaw was an astronaut whose crew, including his wife, were bombarded by cosmic radiation and transformed into something more than human. Sound familiar? But this homage to the Fantastic Four ended in tragedy when Henshaw and 2 of his crewmates succumbed to the fatal radiation. Only Hank didn't die. Instead, he was transformed into a being of pure electromagnetic consciousness, capable of possessing and controlling all electronic and mechanical devices.
It should have also been mentioned that a Fraggle is telling us this story, by the way.
Yes, a Fraggle, a lowly crew member on the warship is just telling this story.
Have you ever heard the tale of the cyborg Superman?
Oh no, and he tells his pocket computer to tell the story. So it's his little computer is telling the story. When his wife was driven mad by watching her husband, quote unquote, die right in front of her eyes, only to come back as a rickety Johnny Five ripoff, Henshaw beamed his consciousness into the rocket that carried Superman to Earth, built himself a little machine, and then left the planet behind. But, as we learn in this issue, that would not be the end of Henshaw's story. He made his way to a dinky planet ruled by the disgraced dictator Mongol. Using his near-limitless powers, Henshaw forces Mongol to fall in line. And finally, he uses Superman's genetic code and the Kryptonian materials found in the rocket to forge a powerful new form that he could use to disgrace the Man of Steel the cyborg Superman was born. Now, fun fact. The story of Henshaw leaving Earth in a piece of Superman's rocket was told by Dan Jurgens in Adventures of Superman number 466, 2 years before Reign of the Supermen.
Son of a...
Did Jurgens and the other Superman creative teams have all of this planned from Henshaw's very first appearance?
Absolutely
I
not.
like to think so.
Absolutely not. I refuse to believe that.
Why do you think
it's too
that?
much? There's no way they look this far. They're like, and then the Eradicator.
Now we know
put him in
that
a
they
sun
had
bubble and
annual
suck him up.
summits where they would get together. We know that they had annual summits where they would get together and plan the entire coming year's worth of stories. Like, I think that they could have seeded this.
I am not buying
Now the Eradicator is healing nicely at the fortress as Steel, Superboy, and Superman prepare to leave for Engine City. Superman pulls Lois aside and tells her things only the real Clark would know, and the lovers are finally reunited. Eat shit, Jeb.
Jeb's gone, by the way.
Superman-
We just never see him again, right? He's
No,
out.
we see him again.
Oh,
we see
do?
him again.
Okay.
Superman leads the trio of heroes to battle, but Steel still has his doubts. End of chapter. Let me have it.
Hugo, this
Hugo
is the
has many
Fantastic
thoughts
Four
about-
thing?
Yeah, Hugo has many thoughts about the Fantastic Four.
Okay.
thing.
I mean, it is an homage to the Fantastic Four, but
Right?
clearly things went very badly to them.
Yeah,
Badly for them.
One's rocky, one's
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah, one's a shambling mound, one's
Yeah.
like burning with atomic fire. Yeah,
One's a
it's
girl.
very, very much Human Torch. Very, very Fantastic Four.
So then earlier there was a 4 in the like a bunch of superheroes thing, you know.
Yeah, when we saw the screens that the cyborg was accessing all of the data sources around the world, we saw that little 4 in the corner. That's
Yeah.
right.
There is a third later. Somebody says, I knew Henshaw's powers were fantastic,
Right.
but I didn't know to go this far.
Might
Yep.
be reaching a little bit there. I'll allow it.
I mean, they hammer it home pretty hard.
Yeah,
'cause
they
it's
were
right
hammering it
after
home pretty
it's
hard.
right after we learn
Okay.
it's after Superman finds out that it's Henshaw. He makes that comment,
Okay.
and you know that
Yes.
that is intentional,
All right.
Hugo. I believe you 100%. I agree.
They're just doing a little too on the nose, but
I even if you remove the Fantastic Four part of it, I think Cyborg. I love his origin.
I love it
think
too.
it's super-
Yeah. You know, I actually had Adventures of Superman 466. I bought it off the spinner rack when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
And I thought it was a great story. And then I was like, what a cool little story about these poor, like, Fantastic Four stand-ins and this guy who has lost everything and has to leave Earth so his wife doesn't go crazy. And I didn't think we would ever see him again. I thought that was the end. But here we are.
okay, let me ask you this. Are they retelling things here in his origin that we have already seen? Or is this unveiling his real origin for the first time?
Everything that transpires after the rocket leaves Earth is new to this issue.
Okay.
This is new information. Everything before that about Henshaw and
in
his
that
wife
story.
and the astronauts, that and him turning into a machine, that all happened in that earlier story that I
Okay, so
mentioned.
all we know is he mysteriously left, and it turns out, he went and
I mean, it kind of leaves on a hopeful note, like, you know, the stars are his to explore, you know. He's like, haha, the
okay.
vastness of the universe. But clearly,
no,
didn't
go
Dude's
well.
crazy.
Yeah,
Dude is crazy.
He turned into
Yeah.
a robot bulldozer skull face thing.
And
The robot bulldozer skull face.
really like flimsy deal with Mongol, where he like, you get to satisfy your bloodlust while I get revenge. Like,
Yeah.
that was really bad.
I don't know if it's even a deal.
Well, but also
technically. It's just
Mongol
like,
is afraid of him. Like
Yeah, he's like
it's
terrified
made
of him.
it's made very clear in this issue that the cyborg could kill Mongol at any time if he wanted.
so
Yeah,
has Mongol been powered up since this, or are we?
no, it's just that the cyborg Superman is vastly powerful.
he's just that badass. Okay,
Yeah, he's badass.
all right, gotcha.
I mean,
and the
he's-
Eradicator is now an old man as well.
He's shriveled and
and gray.
he's desiccated from the explosion.
So real
Um,
quick, Superman shows up, right? And they're
Yeah.
like, "No, you just back off, pal. We don't trust you, whatever." And he's like, "Give me 5 minutes alone with this human being." And they're like, "Okay." And they let him walk off with their, like, no one should be buying anything at this point. You're like, absolutely not. No.
It's kind of like we have so many Supermen at this point. Oh, let's hear another one.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Yeah,
maybe he's.
What do you got?
Now, I will, like, to be fair, yes, I agree that they didn't, like, there's reason for them to doubt, but
yeah, there's no vetting
up until this point. Like, the dude didn't do anything wrong other than come ashore, and then he got attacked.
You could say the same for 4 other super people who showed up and didn't do anything wrong.
Those dudes, like,
until
those dudes
they blew up
trashed whole sections of the city.
I mean, I guess
they, like, Steel blew up a foundry. Like,
all right.
Like, this guy, all he did was come ashore in a robot and say, "Hey, it's me." He hasn't done anything.
Fair. I just don't think
they end the very, very last page is Superboy saying, "This is dope."
Yeah.
And then Steel saying, "This man can't be Superman."
This seems so wrong.
They're playing both sides still.
Right.
You know? Like,
right. But they do know, or at least they according to what this guy is saying, he wants to stop Henshaw.
Fair enough. I'm just saying, when Lois writes this book, if I'm on the Pulitzer crew, I am taking her Pulitzer. You are a bad reporter. You have not applied any of your journalistic skills to this situation at all.
Well, yeah. I don't know how much of this she's actually going to write about because she's, a firsthand.
I also hate Superman in the rocket boots, but I do think it's hilarious that robot guy that works for Team Lex has to give up his boots, and now he's like just wearing a robot suit and he's barefoot.
and like Garfield socks, right?
Yeah, totally.
He's just wearing like
Sir,
weird socks.
I don't have any shoes.
Yeah. And I also really liked that panel where it's like, I need to get to California in a hurry. Those flight boots would be a big help. And the armored guy says, "No way." And then Lex immediately says, "Give the man your boots."
Yeah, I love that part.
It's like, give that man your shoes.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, and Superman's good with them, I guess. He can handle it. You would think like you've never put on rocket.
How to fly.
Well, sure, but he wasn't flying around with rocket boots. That's got to be a whole different shebang.
We'll find out.
We'll learn about that.
More about that.
I wonder, Matt, when you say things like that, how much attention you paid to what you read? Because we're going to find out about that.
No, I mean, I know. I'm just saying, like, he immediately puts them on and bam, he's flying.
Okay. All right. Moving on to Adventures of Superman 504. 4 hours later, that's how long it takes to get across country via rocket boot. The heroes approach Engine City and fall under attack from its perimeter defenses. Superman gives Steel his new name. Remember that up until this point, everyone was calling him the Man of Steel.
Yes.
But Superman is like, I think we should just call you Steel instead. And everyone's cool with that. They break through to Engine City after a full frontal assault. And lest you forget that this is an early 90s comic, Superman accessorizes with pouches, leg straps, and big guns.
Yep.
And I hate it.
Yeah.
Super pool. He's super pool.
He is, yeah.
Such a...
As they make their way through the complex, they come upon the weapon intended to destroy Metropolis and turn it into a second Engine City. It's a big-ass missile. As it starts to launch, Superman and Steel make it out of the launch tube just in time, but where is Superboy? Oh shit, he's on the rocket, and he's Metropolis's only hope. As the rocket hurtles towards the city, Lex is freaking out that Supergirl is missing. It's all good though. Superboy manages to divert the missile, which detonates with tremendous force over Metropolis Harbor, with no sign that Superboy survived. Now we are rocketing towards the finish here, and so these issues are very sparse. It's a lot of hallway fighting.
Yeah,
a lot of hallway fighting,
and
going
very
places.
Little actual plot development.
A lot of travel scenes.
Yeah,
a lot of punching.
Yeah. I mean, like if you're paying attention, it becomes very clear that we need to make it back around to another issue of Superman.
Yes,
because that's where the finale's got to be. Right, it can't be in any of the other books.
That's
right,
because that's the flagship.
So everything here has to either be a punching scene or remember that time when I said that thing?
Yeah, right.
Flashback scene. Like, good Lord.
When I was reading this, I was like, am I getting bored and antsy, and am I reading too fast, or is it just really flowing this fast? And I just feel like it flows so much faster, and that's not necessarily a good thing. But the long hair Superman with guns, I can't do it.
It's so misguided.
Did the armor get trashed?
It doesn't fit him at all.
After he got peed out of the armor, did it get trashed? Like, can he not put the armor back on and go whoop ass in it?
The battle suit?
Yeah. Did it get
no, it got
trashed?
trashed.
Okay.
It got
Get rid of
trashed
the helicopter.
Yeah.
I mean, this issue is fine. Like, I know what they're doing. It's Storm the thing with the team. I think even the cover says it. It's like something squad, like they call it. Like,
it's a cover say. The Superman Revenge Squad.
Yeah. You know exactly what this is by the cover. It's just like, yeah, it's fine. Whatever. Keep moving.
Now, I will buy that Steel's hammer is not a normal hammer, but when they draw it to look like a sledgehammer with a wood handle.
A wooden handle.
That sure pisses me off.
Glenn Whitmore didn't get that.
Come on.
And colored it brown instead of gray. The Superman Revenge Squad is a call out to a Silver Age idea where a bunch of Superman villains got together and formed the Superman Revenge Squad. And it's that very famous cover where they're gathered around a table and they have like driven their daggers into the table and like carved them. Like it's a very famous cover. If you haven't seen it, look it up. It's great.
So Superman is straight up shooting these aliens.
We'll get there.
Just like shooting them.
Yeah, just hold that thought. We'll get there.
All right.
The art in this is still great.
It's good.
Grummett and Hazelwood kick ass. I love the way that he draws explosions. Love the way that he draws explosions.
Yeah, and rocket boosts and stuff. He's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Like fiery propulsion. He's very good at it.
It's great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Action Comics number 691. As Superman and Steel continue their assault on Engine City, Supes starts whispering to himself. Not a good sign. While he's not at full power, he's still got some gas in the tank, which helps him against the alien horde. But then the empty air starts whispering back, and dudes are just getting like punched and blasted out of thin air from seemingly nothing.
This was not handled well.
It's very suspicious. What the hell's going on? Roger Stern, here's an answer to Matt's question from a minute ago. Roger Stern gives us a nice little line about how Superman's X-ray vision, while still weak, is helping him discern between living and robotic enemies. So don't worry about all the laser blasts that he's pumping into them. He's only shooting the robots.
God, give me a break. That's as bad as like, Hulk was such a genius that he knocked down buildings in such ways that he never hurt anybody.
Want, right? Like you don't want to break that immersion, right? Like I'm in the middle of the PlayStation Spider-Man game, and it was the same with the last one. Just because of the nature of the game, there's rooftop fighting, there's things exploding, there's fires. And so you are constantly, unintentionally
knocking people off buildings and stuff.
Throwing people off buildings,
right?
Toss them into explosions. And they have programmed in little animations that every time you see a thug get knocked off a building, if you're looking at it right, you will see them immediately get webbed to a wall. Right. Like he saves them all.
So, no, and I get that. What I'm saying is...
And so, like, you need that to keep from breaking that.
It is so obvious that they wanted to do this stupid black suit, the stupid mullet.
They wanted to do the 90s thing, but
they
also can't, like...
Put him in stupid guns.
We're still talking about Superman.
They had him run around shooting guns for an entire issue before somebody went... We should really say something to the effect of like Superman's not just running around murdering people. I'll put something in my script.
They want to have their cake and eat it.
Punisher at this point.
Yes,
he looks like the Punisher.
Yes.
All right. We're still recapping here. Back in Metropolis, we learned that Superboy survived the rocket's explosion, but he is in bad shape. Supergirl is still missing. I wonder where she could be. It's becoming more and more clear that the cyborg Superman is out of his gourd. His master plan is falling apart at the seams, and Mongol is looking for a way off this sinking ship. Back in the Antarctic, Eradicator isn't healing fast enough, so he absorbs all of the power contained within the Fortress of Solitude, destroying it in the process. Or at least laying waste to it. I don't know. It gets much better. Shades no more. The vengeful spirit of Krypton heads towards Engine City. Steel catches on to the Phantom, helping him, and Superman and Supergirl finally appears. She reveals that she's been with him the whole time, helping Superman during the long cross-country flight and watching his back during the battle. Supergirl's endorsement and his sound tactical planning is enough to finally convince Steel that Superman is the real deal. Mongol decides to make his break from the cyborg once and for all, starting Engine City's launch sequence and revealing its power source, a gigantic kryptonite meteor. Naturally, This is the spot in the trade paperback where DC decides to shove a Bloodlines annual, but we're going to slide right past that one.
Please.
What do you think about this one, guys?
I wrote I have extensive notes on every issue, even the Bloodlines ones that I actually read. And on this one, I just wrote the word fine. Like, it's fine. Whatever. Like
the Supergirl thing. Did they establish that?
What do you mean?
Did they establish? Because I don't remember it at all. If they did, like Supergirl having a line like, "Don't worry, I'll turn invisible and go trail him and help."
No,
him.
they don't.
They show that in flashback where Superman has pulled her aside and he's like,
Good
"I'd like you with me on this," and she's like, "Ooh, I'll hide in plain sight," you know.
And then you kind of look back at like earlier parts in the issue, like, okay, I get it.
Yeah,
that's
like you
why
see,
that happened.
because there's in the either earlier in this issue or a different issue, they jump down a gigantic
it's like the missile silo
shaft.
He's like, I can't fly.
They jump down a shaft, and Superman like kind of floats down to the ground. And
like, you gotta catch me.
I thought you couldn't fly anymore. I was going to catch you. And Superman's like, don't worry about it. Well, it's because Supergirl was there.
All right, and she can turn invisible.
I'll say that the
Supergirl is a shape changer with psychic powers.
Oh, that's
this
right.
is not. She does not have Kryptonian. She is not a Kryptonian.
This is Matrix.
This is Matrix, right?
I think the best part of this issue is like the B or C plot, which is the Eradicator stuff. I think that's the most interesting stuff here.
Definitely.
That's pretty fun.
How he's changing and like what's happening to him. Like,
Definitely.
that's cool. Yeah, I wanted more of that. I was just like, I don't need to see the hallway fighting. Like, I'm done.
No,
they're padding this out so bad.
But then there is this scene here where there is a flashback. Supergirl, after she reveals herself, she fills in Steel. She says, "I spoke with Miss Lane. I could tell she believed him. That was good enough for me. I snuck up on him and offered my help. In my invisible state, I'm virtually undetectable. Superman saw how useful that would be, etc., etc." Henshaw sends his consciousness into the mechanical structure of Engine City and confronts Steel in the engine room. Things are not looking too good for John Henry. As Jeb crashes and burns with Lois, Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, returns to Earth after a long adventure in space, only to discover that his Coast City home has been destroyed.
Finally, someone is upset about it, by the way.
Yes. Steel manages to shut down the engine at great physical cost, and suddenly a very butch Eradicator arrives at the scene, and Mongol looms over a battered Superman. It's a hell of a cliffhanger. But I only had like 5 bullet points for this entire issue.
Yeah.
Because nothing happens in it.
No.
Happens.
No.
There's some great action.
The steel fight scene is amazing.
That's what I was going to say.
It is good.
Actually really good where he shoots the spikes into the robot's face. And like,
and you see him like sticking out of the skull. It's very cool.
That was neat. I like that. That was neat.
Yeah, that was cool. But like, honestly,
and I like the way he draws like the innards of Engine City. Like when he gets to the engine room, it's very like imposing. It's
totally, that's where he shines. And that's why he's a good Superman. Because we talked about the last recording about how much tech there is in Metropolis. And I think that's where his art shines, is like the details of mechanics and, you know.
Yeah,
I don't
totally
agree. I don't disagree.
I was like, this is another like, aside from that, I think his Superman though just bugs me. Like, you know, you get the cover with him with the classic look, and then his hair is like a foot longer throughout this issue than it's been. At all.
I think it grows depending on the scene, like Spawn's cape.
Possibly. I mean, you could tell they were just moving at the speed of
lightning pace. They were
trying
trying so hard to get through this. Yeah.
Like I picture
you
screaming meetings. We're just like, I don't know, we've got like 7 more pages. We've got a feeling like, all right, how about I don't know, Cyborg Superman can like turn into anything in the whole bit. You know, the base attacks him. There's another robot.
The panel. There's a few panels after Steel flies into the gears of the engine. Like he grabs the construct that Henshaw is using, flies it up into the gears, and he's like, "If this is how I die, more grit for the gears, whatever."
Yeah.
And then the engine explodes, and then there's a close-up panel where it's just Henshaw's face, eyes and the bridge of his nose, and he is thinking "cursed gnat," and it is drawn. It looks like it's drawn with crayon.
Yeah, it's bad.
Like it's like he took an existing drawing of the cyborg Superman, and then they blew it up to huge size.
That's exactly what I was going to say. They zoomed in, and it's
and it's so obvious because back then they were working with physical drawings,
Right.
and you can't take a scan of a physical drawing and blow it up 300% and
Sure
have it
you
look
can.
okay.
Sure you can. They did it.
Yeah, it looks like garbage.
When
and
Green
so
Lantern-
I think John Bogdanov drew that panel one time and it's part of a different page.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's earlier in the issue. It's
yeah,
the one where there's
probably.
all the mech. It's all the mech around Henshaw. It's that exact same. You can even see the look on his eyes and everything. It's the exact same.
Yeah,
you're right. It is.
Oh,
It
they're just padding it
absolutely is.
out. They're just padding this
you're
sucker
totally
out.
right.
It's that same one.
Yep, just padding this
And
sucker
you know,
out.
they did do things like that back in the day where, you know, the artist would draw a panel one time and
Right.
then there would be
digital
like
artists do it nonstop.
Copy it.
they do. But they would draw the panel and then they would draw two blank panels next to it. And in those blank panels, they would write STAT, STAT, which stood for something.
Right.
And I think it was to indicate that it was like a static shot 3 times, but usually it was used for like reactions, like panel 1.
Yeah, like,
you hear somebody say something, panel 2,
Yeah.
stunned silence,
Shock.
panel 3, response, but
Right.
it's all the same picture, right?
Right.
This is just like, oh, we cheated. We
Yeah.
didn't have enough time to draw this. So here we go.
He was flying through this. His Green Lantern looks terrible. Like Hal, when we first see him, he's like wrenching his arm back. His legs are spread in space.
Yeah.
What is going on there, Hal? The fight
But
between
yeah,
Mongol and Superman looks awful. That punch scene. Oh my God. It's just terrible. There's just like a fist in the middle of the panel and Superman's like,
Yeah. Where we don't even see the foreshortened arm. It's just the
right.
fist.
It's like a fist in a face. And God, it's
Yeah.
just bad.
It's not, I mean,
They're moving too fast.
we've already speculated
They're
and
moving too fast.
we probably hit the nail on the head that
Yeah.
they are just getting through as fast as they can.
Oh, yeah.
They cut it off. The picture of that they repeated, they cut off the top of the head because it would be too obvious because there's a wire
right.
into all the stuff.
Yeah. You would be able to
Yeah.
much more easily
Totally.
identify where it came from. Yeah,
Lazy
you're totally
bastard.
right. Okay. Green Lantern 46. This issue tells the story of the final assault on Engine City from Hal's perspective, courtesy of writer and sex offender Gerard Jones. We won't mention him anymore. Penciler Mark Bright, co-creator of Quantum and Woody. We love him around here. And inker Romeo Tangal. Hal smashes his way through Engine City and confronts Mongol. We learn that pretty much everyone that Hal cares about survived Coast City's destruction.
Yeah, it wasn't that
which
big of a deal.
really makes you side-eye his eventual heel turn into Parallax.
Right.
But it's okay. We eventually find out he was possessed by a cosmic space bug.
Sure.
Hal whips Mongol's ass, and it is a very satisfying fight, but the battle releases kryptonite gas into the city. The issue kind of jumps the gun on the big finales, but we're going to ignore that part. But like, I love the fight. I love the Hal Mongol fight. I think it's great. I don't know what you guys think about it. Did you read this issue?
It's
or
a
did you
great
skip it?
fight.
Yeah.
I think it's a great fight.
The time jump is inexcusable, but whatever.
Yeah, it's like they didn't get the memo. It's like, maybe don't spoil the ending of Superman 82 before.
Because-
yeah.
Because what's weird
I
is
wonder
like,
when this came out.
because like chronologically, the first time in I don't know how long it's been since the death of Superman, we see Superman in the classic suit is in one small panel in a Green Lantern book.
Yeah.
Right.
That's his heroic return because of the stupid time jump.
And I would not be surprised.
So
I would
bad.
not be surprised if this issue and Superman 82 came out in the same week.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sure.
and so I think I understand why it makes sense to put it before the finale to see the Mongol battle, but maybe they should have just like cut the back part off.
Absolutely. And pad out this Green Lantern
did it with
story
Adventures.
something.
They did it with Adventures of Superman 500. They only included the 2-page like vignettes
Yeah.
about all the new Superman. Like,
I think it's
just
like if
cut
you
that last
watch-
part off.
If you watch the MCU in chronological order, you're like, it's like a different than when the actual order that things came out. So it
Yeah.
reads different, so it's probably like one of those situations.
For sure.
I think it's interesting. Like I think the art in this is when he can do like a big like spread, it's phenomenal, like hang it on your wall art. And then like when he has like a page with like 6 or 7 squares and he's doing like close-ups, it kind of falls apart a little bit.
It gets really bad.
Yeah.
It gets really bad. It's weird. I thought there was 2 different artists, maybe. Honestly.
Yeah.
But like this panel of Hal using Steel's hammer, like his arm is broken, and so he uses his ring to forge himself a suit of armor. He picks up Steel's hammer and just clobbers Mongol. That's such a great panel.
That panel's phenomenal. But then
a lot of it also kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
Horrible.
So Superman, we see him nearly nude in his like ripped up black suit.
We're glossing over this because it ruins the finale.
I get it, but it's here, so we have to deal with it.
We don't though. Goes up
to Cyborg Superman.
We don't.
Who is not wearing a full super suit. I want to stress this, okay? Cyborg Superman has a robot arm that is not covered by a super suit, has a robot leg that is not covered by the super suit. We are led to believe that Superman strips Cyborg Superman butt naked and just throws on the costume and then flies away.
I don't think that's what they're trying to make us believe.
It sure looks like it. He goes and takes the cape off of him, stands over him, and it's like, it's just the man. And then the next panel, nope, it's the Superman. Hold on. This is so poorly done. This time jump is terrible.
Yeah, it made me mad.
I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm looking right at this, and Superman and the Cyborg Superman, you don't really see his body much at all. No. He is wearing the super suit.
I'm not saying Cyborg Superman is not wearing the super suit. I'm saying his super suit would not fully cover Superman if he stripped it off of him.
You see his robot parts through parts.
Yes.
Where does Superman's pristine costume come from?
Right.
Which we will find out. We will learn. So
I did like when he punched when they punched Cyborg Superman's mouth off. That was gross though.
Oh, that rules.
His lower jaw. But they should have had him talk funny after that too. Like,
we determined that his speech comes from a voice box, not like he's not actually. Yeah. Again, this is not intended to be the finale, so ignore everything Matt said.
Too bad, because it's here.
I know that it's here, but look, that is the reality of the situation. It's a tie-in.
I know.
And it's important because finally, we get some Coast City love, you know?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Superman number 82. It is the final battle for reals. Battle between Superman, his allies, and Hank Henshaw. Steel survived the events of Man of Steel 26, but his armor is shot. But that doesn't stop him from joining Supergirl and Superman in the fight against the Cyborg. Henshaw brings his full power to bear against the heroes, using Engine City itself as a weapon. He also takes over Steel's armor and uses it against John Henry in a scene that's either chilling or ridiculous, depending on your frame of mind.
Yeah.
We'll hold your comments. We'll get to it.
All right.
And hey, Superboy made it back. The Cyborg reveals his true identity as Hank Henshaw to a stunned Superman. And also, the last time Superman saw the Eradicator, they were enemies, but Shades assures him that he only wants to help.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you trust him?
Eradicator reveals that he was the one responsible for Superman's resurrection, however inadvertently, and that Clark was well and truly deceased, not just mostly dead, as Miracle Max would say.
No.
It was a lucky series of circumstances that allowed Superman to come back. Earth's specific environment, the regeneration matrix, the solar energy lingering in his body, etc., etc. So don't count on it happening again. Superman and the Eradicator meet Henshaw in final battle. Henshaw either forgets that he can leave his body and escape anytime he wants, or his hubris won't allow it. Just before his final defeat, he focuses the full force of the kryptonite battery on Superman, but the Eradicator sacrifices himself and takes the full brunt of the blast. The beam passes through the Eradicator's body, mingling with its own energy and transforming it before it passes into Superman. The blast restores Superman to full power. The real Man of Steel destroys Hank Henshaw's Kryptonian cyborg body, vowing to stop him again should he ever return. We don't really spend any time wondering if maybe he's still hanging around on Earth. It's just I blew up his body. I guess it's over.
Well, this goes back to the rules of once we tell you something, that's how it is. So don't worry.
Right, yeah.
You know?
Supergirl uses her telekinetic powers to rearrange the molecules of Superman's tattered onesie and restores the iconic red and blue costume. So he did not strip Cyborg Superman naked. Supergirl uses her powers
Off panel.
to rebuild the costume.
Gotcha.
Superman flies off with a renewed purpose, vigor, and joy for life. The end. Or is it? But guys, this is the finale. Superman 82. What do you got?
It burned into my brain, and I forgot until I saw it again, reading it, how much I hated at the moment, and I hated it even more now, is the hole in the costume with the sunburned pecs. It is
Oh,
so
yeah,
bad.
they're burnt.
Oh
Yeah.
my god,
It's
they're
so
just
bad. Yeah.
It's so bad.
Like, what are we doing?
with the braca.
What are they trying to tell
That's
us?
the panel I'm looking at right now. Oh
Yeah.
my god! And then his costume just deteriorating into like a wrestling singlet.
Yeah.
Is kind of a choice, but
Okay, so let's talk about Steel's costume doing the same thing. I need to we have had discussions whether or not Steel is wearing a suit of armor that is fully malleable because his lips move and stuff like that, right?
Right.
So in
he
this,
can bend at the elbows and knees.
Right.
So yeah.
in this, the costume is busted open all over the place. Very similar
Right.
to what happened to Superman. He's got a big chest bust open and like his head is busted
it's shredded.
open. It's totally shredded. And we see like John Henry Irons is just a naked dude under there, apparently. Right? And he's not being cut to ribbons by anything, any of this that's happening.
Any of the metal shards that compose the costume.
And then when Hank Henshaw
Not
takes
sharp at all.
over the suit, it's like his head just appears in like the abs of the suit. It's like, what is this made of? I don't understand.
well, I think it's just that like he, in very like typical comic book lore, he's tech and can take control of tech. And
right, he can do that to technology.
I get that.
Like,
Yeah,
He has not done that so far when messing with Steel.
he's never done that. You're
But
right.
whatever, fine, I'll allow
Well,
it. I'm saying, what
everything
is Steel's
we've
suit
seen
made of? Is it liquid
everything
metal?
we've seen so far, he has like used the existing components to form a different vessel, right?
Right.
And so it like you turned Mongol's spaceship into a giant dragon, but it's clear that it was using the pieces of the ship.
Right.
In this issue, it's just like T2 liquid metal style. He's like forming versions of his own head out of like on the walls and shit.
And is
Right.
Steel's suit like T2 liquid metal? Because apparently it can be blasted apart and he can still move and function just fine. It just has giant holes in it. And like it shreds like metal that's exploded from an explosion or something.
These are not questions that this book is concerned with answering. So,
And then it's back.
That's a good way to put it, Joe.
It drove me
back
insane.
together, like in the beginning of the next issue.
Yes.
Yeah,
well, yeah.
It drove me
That's very
insane. I did not. I couldn't handle it.
Just like the previous issue, though, I think the best stuff was the Eradicator, like sacrificing himself and all that was
Yeah.
great.
Yes.
Well, he was awesome.
Oh yeah, like the Eradicator's like desiccated husk is pretty grim,
Yeah.
But,
That's gross.
yeah.
There is a scene where Superboy like kicks Steel's face apart, I guess. Because he like, I can't breathe. Hank Henshaw's killing me. And Superboy's like, oh yeah?
Oh
And
yeah, no, he
looks like
he uses his mystery power.
Okay.
To
but it looks like he kicks Steel's head off.
you don't see him kicking it, but it is weird the way that it's like.
looks like he just,
In
like-
one panel, he's like posed,
Yeah.
like ready
Like
to
he's
kick
gonna
Steel. In the
place
second
kick
panel,
him.
all you see is Steel,
It's
and the
his
face
head.
explodes.
But it's just
Yeah.
his head. It looks like he kicked his head off. And he's like,
You don't even
"No,
see a body. It's just
sorry.
the head.
Like,
That's
oh
true.
no.
I was trying to help.
It's so bad.
But Joe, what are your thoughts on the way Superman takes out Cyborg? Like in the whole Batman and Superman don't kill. Like, I don't know how I feel about
So
it.
Superman knows that Hank Henshaw is like he's a signal. Like you can't destroy energy. Like
True.
he knows
He's
that
just
there's
getting rid
nothing
of
he can do.
This is just a vessel, essentially.
It's a vessel, right?
Okay.
Cool.
I mean, if you want to argue about how like the cyborg Superman cloned half of a living body, and then Superman blows it up. We don't even know if the meat part of this body is actually functioning like flesh and blood, or
We
if
don't
it's
know
just
much of what anybody's made
or
of.
if it's just being animated. If he's just being puppeted around. But anyway, yeah, I think at this point, Superman knows that Henshaw, like, there's no killing him, but there is a way to stop him, and that is to destroy this very powerful half Kryptonian vessel and prevent him from coming back to it. Yeah. But again, like, it doesn't explain. It's very convenient that Henshaw, and you know what? And I do think that you can make an argument that at this point, Hank is just deranged. And so if you want to say that he's so focused on getting revenge that he doesn't stop to think, like, why don't I just beam myself out of here? Mm-hmm. And then he lets Superman blow up his body.
Right.
So.
Well, or knock him into Legos or whatever it is. Because it's like, there's no guts there. There's no blood. It's just a bunch of Legos hit the ground.
I mean, it's all, yeah.
Even the sound effect, Bruce, like that sound of Legos like exploding when they hit the ground.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, or like delicious candy. I don't know. It looks.
Yeah. And so, I think that, I think Superman knows that at best he is just stopping Henshaw in his tracks, and if he comes back, it's tomorrow's problem. But now he's here to deal with it.
Right.
And he doesn't come back for years. Not until Green
Superman
Lantern?
Doomsday Hunter Prey.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
That prestige format series that John and I have gushed about in previous installments.
So good.
Where we learn the origin of Doomsday.
I think the cover of this is the best part. The die cut, like, silver chromium cover with Superman and Cyborg Superman behind him, and all the back for good.
It came with two. It came with two covers.
Yeah,
that
great
one,
cover.
the chromium one with the and it was embossed as well, by the way. Mm-hmm. So Cyborg's face was raised. And then the other cover where it's just him posing with the allies flying, and it says "The rain is over."
Yeah,
that's like the newsstand.
That was your newsstand cover. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. This other with the Superman 82 cover, the variant, the one with the cyborg, that also came in like standard, like this one appears to be, and then actual like chromium, so like that would not have looked good, scanned in like this. So this is just the art, but the chromium, if you look at it, it's like very like gray and metallic.
Oh, it's kick-ass. It's a great chromium.
It's very different than what we see here in
it's
this
great
book, but
it's great.
Yeah, it is cool looking.